March 17, 2019. Creating Spiritual Community. Neil Worthington. Licensed Unity teacher and spiritual leader at Unity of Payson, Arizona.
My topic for today, chosen 4 or 5 weeks ago, was creating spiritual community. It's wonderful how things work out, but they don't take the same shape that I thought they might have at that time. I want to share with you how my experiences of this past week relate to that topic of creating spiritual community. I want to talk about one aspect of that. I would call it oneness through prayer. Of course, there's prayer. When we think of prayer, me and God. I have my requests, maybe even my gratitudes, and it's me and God. Or at least I've thought about it that way sometimes. But it's bigger than that. It is a prayer consciousness that goes beyond me as an individual, beyond you as an individual, and encompasses the truth that we know all that is. And then there's what I'd like to call the practice of presence as prayer. Every Sunday we say at the end, we will at the end of this service, I am presence. The presence of God watches over me, we say in the prayer for protection, and then we say, I am presence. So think of that big tapestry again. If presence with a capital P, as big as you can make it, is that tapestry, you, the threads that weave into that tapestry, making it the beautiful, perfect work that it is, are also present. So we're going to look at prayer in those ways. Individual, between me and my sense of the divine. Collective, together, a prayer consciousness. And practicing a certain presence, being there. Here and now as we know it, but it's bigger than that. Even presence is something beyond the borders of here and now and time. So a little definition. I like to do definitions. Charles Fillmore defines prayer as the most highly accelerated mind action known. It steps up mental action until man's consciousness synchronizes with the Christ mind. It is an affirmation of truth that eternally exists, but which has not yet come into consciousness. It comes into consciousness by affirmation. And these are some of the truths that we study and that we voice regularly. I'd like to tell you how that relates to my story of this past week and a half. Tuesday morning, more than a week, 10 days ago, or whenever that was, I got up and started at 6 o'clock and drove east of the Sholo and picked up a rental car that was probably a little better suited to the trip than mine was, and drove to Kansas City. Not all in one day. I did stay one night along the way. When I got to Kansas City, I was there to be interviewed for the field licensing program, to actually be a Unity minister, to follow in the shoes that are in the footsteps that Reverend Maurice has experienced. It was an odd experience because I arrived for an interview at an empty building and I knew no one in the building. I knew none of the other candidates. I knew none of the people who were interviewing, none of the mentors that were around. I knew no one. The building had been abandoned in terms of regular use some time back, but it was brought to life, well, not really, life didn't feel like life to me, for this occasion. So I went into this very cold and very strange interview. I was asked a lot. I was twisted and wrung out here and there about unity, about my own personal life in any number of ways. And I felt like I was being evaluated more than I'd ever been evaluated before. Went through 4 of those interviews, 5, including the psychological. That was also part of it. And then finally did get to the point where they said, we looked at your responses and we'd like to give you this letter that says you're accepted into the field licensing program to be a unity minister. Well, that was cause for celebration, but I still was kind of cast adrift because I still didn't much know anyone or anything. And then the weekend passed, and Monday morning we began at 8 o'clock at a place that you're looking at on the screen, at Silent Unity. Now, Silent Unity, we say here, is the prayer ministry, and unity is grounded and based in prayer, affirmative prayer. But I get to know a little more intimately the story of that. It began with Myrtle Philmo, one of the co-founders of Unity, and for 128 years, non-stop, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, that prayer ministry has continued. Deep, deep roots. So, I had appreciated Silent Unity, but not in the same way that I grew to appreciate it on this visit. So, because not long after we found some of the details about Silent Unity, we were invited to sit in with a senior prayer associate at Silent Unity as they answered calls. There was a monitor sitting in front of us in the room, and on the monitor we saw names of prayer associates. Well, I would guess there must have been 25 of them at the time. Monday morning, I guess, is a big time for people to call Silent Unity. And they were all barred with pink, which means calls were in process, which meant that there were calls waiting as well, because people had not been able to get on directly. So as we looked at that, we were patched in to listen to the senior prayer associate praying with a homeless man who had called, down on his luck, we might say, attempting to look up, wishing for hope. And so we sat there, almost choked me out. Prayer associate listened, heard, and then began to share truth. The truth that was just perfectly suited, it seemed, to the need of that individual. I was awed at the sensitivity and just amazed at how the principles of truth could be brought to that situation, that call from someone on the streets who had no home, and given life, and given hope and direction. They didn't have enough Kleenexes in that room for all of us, but there were several of us, 9 of us there, were together, because we're just touched by that, and the calls went on. Another one was for a grandmother praying for the health of her granddaughter. The power of that prayer and the power of bringing together the truth, such as we know it. You know the truths that we talk about. God is all good. Wholeness is our natural state. Our legacy is one of abundance. We talk those truths. And I talk them from this podium. But there I really felt them. I knew that they were real in a new way because of that powerful, powerful prayer ministry. We continued through several calls, and it just confirmed how important that ministry was, and how real, how absolutely real and true. Later on, I had the opportunity to go and sit. See that little cupola up there? That's the prayer chapel, prayer vigil. That someone is there all the time. A prayer associate is there all of the time, holding the prayers that are in that room in the space of sacred consciousness, recognizing the truth about them. So the prayers that you may put in that little prayer box back there, we'll go to that prayer box here that we prayed for, and then we'll go to Silent Unity, and they are put in containers that literally make up the wall of that room, of that prayer vigil chapel. So I sat there for the half-hour shift that I can, knowing that prayers that were prayed here were in those walls. And there was extraordinary power here. I'm not the most intuitive guy, and I don't have some of the sensation that many of you do in a spiritual sense. And probably more the Charles type, something had more. But as I sat there quietly, there was not a word spoken. Prayer isn't words, by the way. Prayer is beyond that. Living in that consciousness of the divine, the consciousness that all is good, all is well. I sat there. And I can only describe it for that half hour as a full-body, holy blush. Felt like I was blushing. Prayer. Bringing together all of those requests from all over the world, sitting in the walls of that prayer chapel, somehow gave me the sense of how much a community we are beyond any of our knowing. And I think that same thing can be true for us here at Unity of Payson. In this community, we hold in consciousness the truth that is there for all of us. And in doing that, we create a spiritual community. While I was there, I wanted to bring you something back. This is wonderful. You go to sit in the bookstore at Unity, and there's lots of little things. But I ran across these little blessing cards. And I wanted to bring one to all of you. I asked Don to help me. I'm going to give one of these to all of you because there's a prayer on it that's in language of a contemporary of Myrtle Fillmore, but yet really resounds with the truth. It's called the Prayer of Faith. Emma, here's one for you. I'm going to give one of these to everybody. My gift to you. I said, two for you. I'm coming back, Chris. I'm not skipping it. Here we go. I'll see that. Have I got one? These are called blessing cards on the shelf in the bookstore. But I thought how appropriate it was because it says a prayer written by Hannah Moore Kohlhaas, who was a contemporary of Myrtle's, and Myrtle loved this prayer, and if you ever get a chance, listen to the recording. There is a recording of Myrtle praying this prayer. I didn't have time to find it and get it up here, but go look. If you go truthunity.net, or talk to me. I'll figure out how to get you there. But I want to read this prayer because it says the same things that we're saying in this message. The prayer of faith. God is my help in every need. God does my every hunger feed. God walks beside me, guides my way through every moment of the day. I now am wise. I now am true, patient, kind, and loving too. All things I am, can do, and be through Christ, the truth that is in me. God is my help. I can't be sick. God is my strength, unfailing, quick. God is my all. I know no fear, since God and love and truth are here. So when we look at prayer, let us think of it as based consciousness, divine consciousness based in truth. And let us also think of it as living as presence. We say, I am present. Let us live as presence. That means, as it did with those prayer associates, loving and listening. Those prayer associates, by the way, when they come on and take their shift, first half hour, they just pray in themselves. That's the first order of business, for them to get in that attitude of prayer, that place of prayer. Then they'll go with their calls. Loving and listening. And what we do here very, very well, you know, we also say, our place has great energy. Well, there are people in our community that are holding the space for the energy of the divine. And as presence, we hold that space both for this community unity of Payson, for our families, each of us, for our larger communities, whatever they may be, for our world. We hold space for truth. So how can we create spiritual community? One of these ways is through prayer, knowing the truth, living in that consciousness, and living as presence. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Dean. It's an experience to be at Unity Village. And if you just have a chance to ever go visit, please do. I know people that have gone and their travels have stopped.